Welcome back to the channel and to our crazy life where things are in bloom and we've got a lot to do. So let's get on with it. Check out my bone broth. So I'm just going to try and pluck these little bits of fat out. It turned out so dark and beautiful. I didn't actually have a second batch ready. Hi, Rafi. So thankfully, by freeze drying some of those livers I picked up, I had just enough space if I rearrange the freezer to lie 2 trays flat, which is just the right amount for the broth that I have. And I didn't know what else to put in the freeze dryer with the broth because I didn't want a meaty flavor or scent to infuse non-meaty foods. And I didn't want to do another batch of liver with it because I hate the smell of liver, and the thought of liver infusing my bone broth just made me want to be sick. So these two will have to freeze and I will get another batch of bone broth going. Speaking of liver, it is ready to come out hopefully, but I was just sitting down to eat dinner when it finished its cycle. It's like every time the freeze dryer finishes, I am currently eating. So, well, not every time, this is only my second batch. So, well, I guess it's 100% of the time, but I'm going to get this out and pop it in my La bags. Okay, the mess on this table is real because I've been clearing out all my canning stuff and cleaning it all, and that is a pile of laundry that's yet to be put away. Okay, so let's do this. The livers still feel quite warm, which worries me that then they will sweat in the bag. But the trouble is, the longer I leave them exposed to the elements, the worse it is for the shelf life of these little livers. Oddly, all the other trays are warm and this one is cold. I don't know if that's normal. This was the bottom tray. I wonder if... Oh, no, that's doable. Oops. All seems dry. This part is actually still moist. So, I think this whole bottom tray actually needs a little bit more time. So, I don't know how to put it back in for just a little while. I might have to freestyle. Hopefully the livers will freeze dry for the final time quickly because there shouldn't be much moisture left in them to freeze and then extract. But it's disappointing, but I will learn from this, and I will also contact the help desk to find out if there's a way that I can sidestep the freezing process and just go back to drying. But in the meantime, I've got a second batch of bone broth starting while the other one is freezing. I'm now going to roast these until they're nice and brown, so about an hour. I'm going to show you guys how I put together my bone broth really quickly. So you can see the meat and the bones are browned. So you can see the bones have browned well. That's going to help for the flavor. I still have some of the bones reserved from the previous bone broth batch. So if I have space in the slow cooker, I will add some of those. So I'm going to just load up the slow cooker. So this is a mix of marrow bones and brisket bones. That was just what I could get. I always try and pick up some marrow bones from the butcher, even though they're $6 a kilo. No, not $6 a kilo, $6 for a half a thigh bone, it looks like. But it's still pretty expensive for a bone. But, you know, the whole point is you want a bit of good marrow in there for cartilaginous support. So let's get all of these good bones in there. The trouble is, if I put too much in there bone-wise, then I can't fit much broth. But then the broth does tend to become more gelatinous, which is good. Okay, so then we've got all the veggies and the juices to go in. So I'll use 2 hands to get the rest of that juice out because I need a spatula for that. And this is what else I'm going to put in. Now I'm lucky I keep a fully stocked pantry because otherwise I wouldn't have run down to the supermarket, but I would really need to because I skimped on the peppercorns in the last broth as well because I hadn't located these, and funnily enough they were in the box marked peppercorns. I've got a couple of cloves of garlic. I really like to use these small annoying cloves that are irritating to peel in my broth because you're just going to strain them out later. I don't use a lot because I don't want it to be overpowering. I've got some red onions and that will help in terms of color, but also it's an aromatic, so we've got some nice flavor. We've got salt. And I'm actually going to use pink Himalayan salt on this one, and I've got some bay leaves to go in, as well as obviously a lot of water. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the camera and get this juice in there. I didn't get to put much celery in, so I'm just going to put a little bit more. This is celery that had slightly started to not be fresh enough that I would want to eat it on its own. So it has been blanched and frozen. Normally I have a pack of offcuts, so like the ends of onions, the ends of carrots, things like that I can just dump in, but that is in the other freezer underneath the broth that is currently freezing in the freeze dryer tray. So I don't want to disturb it. So I'm going to pop all of that in there. I don't think on this occasion I'll use the other bones because there's not much room for water already. But if I do this one only for 24 hours, then I might cycle all the bones back in together for a third batch. The reason I'm using the Himalayan salt is because there's no added extras in this and it doesn't have iodine added into it. I am going to freeze dry this broth. And normally when you preserve broth, my understanding is that if you have iodine salt or salt with iodine, it doesn't preserve as well. So you can use sea salt as well, but you just need to make sure it doesn't have anti-caking agent in it as well. Or I do anyway. To get this to the full line, which is just here, is about 3.5 liters of water with all of this in it, which is just under 1 gallon. So you can't actually fit in a lot of water into this slow cooker, but you know, previously I used to think this was more than enough for one person, but having moved to a place with more of a garden, my focus has kind of changed. I want to be cooking food that is homegrown and not covered in pesticides, and that is better for me. And being a one-person household, if I'm growing my food, often a lot of the food comes ready all at once, and either I'm going to waste it or give it away. So I need to learn to preserve it, and that's part of what this is about. Obviously, I'm also gluten-free. Gluten-free costs more when you go to the supermarket. So if I can learn to preserve food better, then I can kind of manage the effects of inflation a little bit more. It's kind of dabbling in the fields of being a prepper, but I don't really consider myself a prepper. But if I am, it was very handy this evening, and it's been handy actually a lot lately. But I just consider myself someone more who is trying to practically address the costs of life and the costs of living and the waste we create, and trying to minimize that in a one-person household. And I'm actually just enjoying really learning all of this sort of stuff, and it's not so much about prepping, but I guess more being a wannabe homesteader. But while the costs have been prohibitive in stopping me from getting more land to become a homesteader, I can start to experiment and learn more. So this is my first batch of freeze drying. This is freeze dried veggie stock paste. So it's going to be really handy to just have that on standby and to not have it sitting in the fridge, taking up space and requiring more energy to store it all the time. And I've spent the last couple of days cleaning some of these jars, and I cleaned these ones in between other jobs that I've been doing, and I've got other jars that need to be cleaned. But I mean, I wouldn't consider this being a prepper so much as just trying to learn a way to be healthier, to grow my own food, and to be more independent. I had a pretty bad round of health problems, including cancer, and that has meant that I've been dependent on other people for a lot of things for years, including the finances involved with getting treatment. And so this is kind of like me trying to regain much more of my independence and to really just take back ownership of my health and of my life. The only ways in which I consider myself a prepper is that I do have a first aid kit in a kind of bug out bag situation, and I do have a bug out bag which is, to be honest, mostly dog food and medical stuff, because as I said, I have medical problems and I am also a healthcare professional, so it does help to have more stuff. You can help more people, or you can just ditch it if you don't need it. But we do get a lot of bushfires, so I do think that this is practical preparedness to be ready to go at a moment's notice, because I live right near the bush and there's only 2 roads out and both of them are surrounded by the bush. So if a bushfire came through here, we would be pretty screwed, so I do need to be ready to go. And this is little Birdie. She's tired, but I mean, if there was a bushfire, I want to make sure that I can get my puppies out quickly and that I can have everything that they need for 3 days. In all likelihood, if there was a bushfire, we'd be able to get somewhere where we could get everything we needed. But again, you know, if you're a single person and it's just you can't rely on other people forever. And to some extent, you need to be as self-sufficient as possible. Obviously, because of my health problems, I'm never going to be entirely self-sufficient, but I could be more than I am, and that's the goal. Oh, I've got to open the drain valve. So this has had an extra 11.5 hours. It was ready at 2 a.m. and I know that because Birdie got me up to go to the toilet at about 3:30 and it was almost done on its additional drying time. So I gave it 5 or 6 hours more, I can't even remember now, so that I didn't have to deal with it when I first got up in the morning. So, I mean, it bloody better be dry now because it's been in there for a really, really long time. Let's get the other ones out. So we're gonna package these up quickly. Hopefully they look very, very dry. So maybe it was a good thing that Birdie got me up to do her business and then vomited all over the carpet when she came in. Because I don't know what happens if it turns off in the middle of the night and you're asleep. So if you guys have freeze dryers, let me know if you know the answer to that. So this is the piece last time that I noticed was still wet. It feels like crispy as, although I can't snap it. Oh yes I can. I need more thumb strength. Feels very dry now. Let's test it and see if Birdie likes it. Birdie, could you stop destroying boxes for a second? What do you think? Is it yum? Okay, let's get the last one out. Oddly, the bottom one is cold again. Have you guys had that where the bottom tray is cold and all the other ones are warm? It's very off-putting. Although everything seems dry, and Lord knows it should be dry after 6 years drying. Okay, alright, well, despite the unexplained cold bottom drawer, I am going to bag these up and just cross all your fingers and toes, folks. Hey, you sit? Oh, so good. One for you. One more. If you've got a freeze dryer, I would love to know if you guys are getting loads of condensation up on the ring that sort of drips the whole way down during the process. I've never seen anyone mention that on any YouTube videos, so I don't know if that's normal or not. But this machine has been working pretty hard for the last 4 days, so I'm going to let it just defrost with nature, and I'm going to give it a break while we wait for the bone broth to be ready to fill up the other 3 trays. The bone broth has been in the freezer overnight, and it looks like the world's most disgusting ice rink, but it also looks really, really cool. You want a blueberry, Raffy? So what I'm going to do now is give Raffy his blueberries, and then I'm going to go and do the freeze dryer dishes, and then have a shower and get my day started. You want some blueberries too, Possum? You had an extra bit of liver. All right. Lucky it's your packet of blueberries, hey? Hopefully these will do okay. Of course, this time I forgot to leave the remaining slot open wide so I could easily put the oxygen absorbers in. And this one has like a little patch on it that looks pretty rough. I hate it when they have things like that because I'm always like, are you going to work? And I often stick some duct tape over the top of that, not sure that that actually achieves anything, but we'll see. I'm actually surprised it came down into just 3 bags. I could have easily, I think, got them in 2 and maybe had a couple of pieces left over for the puppies. But in the similar size freezer bags, this was like a lot more volume-wise. But the pieces didn't actually seem to have shrunk, so go figure. Maybe they just jam in better because as I push them in, they crumble. So we've got 2.5 bags, I guess it's 3 bags really, 3 bags of liver treats for the doggies. So hopefully these will store really well and I can take them out when I need them. I didn't want to put them in glass jars because I didn't want to look at liver, and there's a lot of liver and I didn't want to waste all my glass jars on liver. This will also be the first time that I'm storing my oxygen absorbers in a jar. Normally I will only do, oh, it's sealed, nice. I only do 10 at a time of bag work because I don't want to lose any oxygen absorbers, and I've been hesitant to try using the jars, plus I didn't have any little ones and now I do. But I think now the freeze dryer has arrived. You want more liver, birdie? Do you want more liver? You're such a beautiful girl. You did so well on your walk, my love. That one dog was a bit scary. He was. It's all right. But given I'm going to be doing more freeze drying and presumably more Mylar bag packaging, I think it's far more practical to be able to do 1 at a time, 2 at a time, 10 at a time. So we'll see how this goes. It's all a learning experience. But now it's time for dishes, and then the puppies have been walked and fed, so I can get on with my day. It doesn't really matter where I go in the house, I'm followed by 2 wrestling puppies. I am trying to make more of an effort to make sure that I vacuum the house every single day. It's not always a heavy duty vacuum where I get into all the nooks and crannies, but with 2 dogs and the amount of running through the house they do, I really need to make sure that I am giving the house a little bit of a once-over every day. So I'm trying to make that part of my morning routine, that and the dishes, just to make sure everything is a little bit more under control. But no matter what I do throughout the day, toys and cardboard get deposited all over the house, chewed sticks, and I just need to find a better way to stay on top of it, and things have been a little bit crazy lately. For an easy lunch, I whipped out one of the roast veggie soups we made together a few weeks ago, and while I was eating lunch and checking my freeze dryer calculations, the puppies were doing their enrichment training. So they have all these puzzles that help tire them out and help them use their brains, particularly Rafa, which is much more fatiguing for them than physical activity. And this is Birdie's first real go. This bone broth smells absolutely amazing. So I'm going to get the rest of it all packaged up and in the fridge, and then once it's had a chance to solidify and I've had a chance to get some of the fat off, then I will pop it on the freeze dryer trays just like the other batch and freeze it, and then pop it in the freeze dryer once the fruits are done. In the interest of full disclosure, I'm actually not going to let the freeze dryer rest. I'm going to put in these frozen fruits I just went and picked up at the supermarket. I have received instructions from my 6-year-old niece that she wants a layered birthday cake with blueberry, mango, strawberry and raspberry, and so I'm going to try and freeze dry the fruits to be the flavor. And I've also got some dragon fruit here because I thought that might be a good way to color up the strawberry cake if it needs a bit more color, or I can add this into my smoothies. And this is more blueberries, raspberries and dragon fruit. So I had time to do a little shop run and I picked these guys up. I was needing to do this at some point. I thought today would be a good day because it's actually not that warm today. So I thought I might start this afternoon so I can get going overnight. The worst time to have anything in the freeze dryer is in the morning because the sun comes into that room in the morning and it makes it quite warm, but then it cools down in the afternoon. So now is a good time. And this is a perfect way to procrastinate a little bit more from the things I probably should be doing, like actually pressing publish on the third book in the series I've written. So let's get these in the freeze dryer now, and hopefully these will make a very yummy birthday cake for a beautiful little girl. There was a whole bunch of things that I wanted to do with you guys today, and one of those things was to get the last batch of bone broth going, and it probably has about 20 minutes left in the oven with the bones until it's ready for me to put it in the slow cooker. We've separated the tallow from the last lot and frozen it so that in the future I can try it with roast potatoes. I've heard it's really tasty. I've never done it before. Usually I just chuck it out. So in the spirit of trying not to waste anything, I'm going to give that a go. But the freeze dryer is also still working on the fruit for Ruby's birthday cake. And we were going to go out in the garden and harvest and plant some seeds. But yesterday we met an elderly lady who lives a few doors down from us. Her walking buddy has moved, and so she's come walking with us this morning. We went for a long walk and then I mowed the lawn when I got home. And then when I got out of the shower, I was like, oh, what is that thing on my head? And I had a tick burrowing into the lower part of my hairline. And if you guys have watched this channel before, you know that I had a really bad reaction to my last tick bite, which was also my first tick bite, and I ended up in hospital. And part of that is because I've had cancer before and I've had a really substantial number of my lymph nodes removed. I've had 5-6 of them removed on the left, and of course it bit me on the left, so that meant that my body was kind of struggling to flush out the tick toxins. And because I didn't know I'd been bitten by a tick, I ripped it in half, and it turns out I'm allergic to tick saliva. Anyway, so once I found this little lump, I'd obviously angered the beast, and I could feel it burrowing into my head. It was so painful. And I mean, I live alone, so what am I going to do? Ask Rafi to take it out for me? I mean, this is why people have husbands. I'm convinced. Anyway, so we ran down to the pharmacy. She pulled it out for me, and now my head is just so sore, and I'm back on antibiotics. And I'm just not really feeling very well. I feel like my face is already swollen, which is again going to happen because I've got a reaction here and my body can't clear it out. And I've had a snooze. I'm just still not feeling very good, and I'm going to have to deal with the freeze-dried food this evening. And I think with doxycycline you're not supposed to be outside in the sun a lot, but we've got some zucchinis that are getting pretty hefty, so I'm just going to take you guys outside to grab the zucchinis. We're going to do a little zucchini harvest, and then we're going to call it quits for this video. And I hope that you guys have enjoyed it, and I'm sorry if it's been a bit bitsy, but my brain has stopped working because I've been bitten by a tick. So there's that. I will of course show you guys how the fruit turns out, but we'll probably do that in a subsequent video when we test a cake recipe and see how it goes, because I've never cooked with freeze-dried food before. But the artiste has told me that she wants natural fruit flavors in her cakes, so that's what she's gonna get. So let's get these zucchinis harvested. We managed to get quite a bounty. I'm not really sure what the deal is with these little short fat ones, but it's kind of cool. Birdie, I think, enjoyed that more than the rest of us did because it's quite warm outside. But right now the beef bones are ready. I'm gonna pop them in, get the stock ready, and then I'm gonna weigh the zucchini. The total for the zucchini was 3.794 kilograms. To get pounds, just multiply it by 2 and you'll get about 7.5 pounds. So that's pretty amazing for the very first harvest of zucchinis this year. I didn't harvest all of them because there were some that were like this big or a day or two away from being ready to harvest. So I'm really happy with this. To be honest, these are all probably going to get freeze-dried. I had actually defrosted enough food to eat for the next 2 days, so rather than waste the zucchini or let them go too far, I mean, this one has already gone pretty far. I think what I will do is try freeze-drying them and see how we go, and I'll probably powder some and then I might do some shredded zucchini. So this should be, hopefully, very exciting and hopefully a sign of wonderful bounties to come. I actually feel a little bit better after being outside, but I'm not going to push my luck, and I'm just going to chill out now for the rest of the day and maybe just do some computer work and just try and let my body heal from this tick bite. I mean, I feel a lot better physically, but oh, that spot is still really sore from where they froze it off. I'm hoping that it's just the freeze burn as opposed to the tick was a psycho. But my friend Rachel, who has lived here for 15 years and they get tick bites all the time, she keeps saying, whoa, those are such big ticks that you get. And I'm like, why do I have to do medical things so well? So that's it for today. I hope you guys have enjoyed hanging with us and making a whole bunch of freeze-dried stuff and harvesting a ton of zucchini. Hopefully we will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for hanging out with us. Bye.